This week we learn in Parshas Noach. Vayomer Hashem leNoach, Kates kol basar kol lefanai, the end of all people, or if you want to be more literal, of all flesh, came in front of me. Ki mala ha'aretz Hamas mipneihem, because the earth is full of Hamas. What is the translation of Hamas? So we have some kind of idea. We're lucky enough that this word appears enough times in the Torah and other places. We could figure out it means something like robbery or unjust gain of money. It's in this area, something that has to do with injustice when it comes to monetary objects or stealing and this kind of stuff. And that's what Chazal say. We know the famous story that they used to take small stuff, less than a penny, all kinds of hints about stealing. So I just would like to explain this story of Noach to make sense out of it. What does it mean that everybody was stealing? What does it mean? You read a story in the Torah, we have to understand its reality. You gotta imagine. Let's imagine you live in Borough Park, Brooklyn, and the guy has a candy store, the guy has a deli, a takeout, the guy has a shoe store, and people just come in the store, they take away all the shoes. And the other guys, all the guys come in like a mob, they take away all the chocolates. And then the grocery store. Does this make any sense for you? Come on. What? So you mean to tell me that, so first of all, so the next day there was no more grocery stores. So the whole stealing went on for a few days, and then all the shops closed down, right? There was no police, there was just like a mob, just like looting, like by the Hurricane Sandy. And what it would mean that the people that were robbed from their goods, they were that lost out, and all the other guys, they just got, it happened just one episode. This doesn't add up, this story. What's going on here? Well, there was no, even by the tribes, they have, even by the most primitive tribes, they have, you can't do whatever you want. It's not a, I think even by the animals, it's not like that. There's a system, there's something, there's police, there's what's right, what's wrong. There's a way how things work. So when we say these words, we must understand in a totally different context. You must understand that these guys that lived in that generation had a totally set up system. They were very advanced in their ways. They built nice buildings, they had bridges, they had all kinds of ranks, military, everything like the ancient civilizations had. I understand they didn't have iPads and computers and YouTubes, but they had in their way, they were very civilized and very sophisticated. Maybe they had even bathhouses. We know the Romans made it. Maybe that was before. We don't know. We keep on finding ancient excavations And we really don't know the details. We just know that they were sophisticated. They knew what they were doing. They weren't as stupid as we wish to think they were. They knew, they were smart, they built, they had a lot of nice ideas and stuff. Okay, now, so obviously in such a civilization there's laws, there's order, there's something going on. Let's try and understand from the previous parsha. It says, B'nei Halihim as B'nei Sodom. Here's the hint of this whole thing. There was a special elite group, the millionaires, the rich people, the filthy rich people, that definitely they got money from maybe from their parents, they had nice estates. They came into the picture as the higher class. So that's nothing wrong with that. You know, some people are lucky, they just come from rich families and they have nice estates. That's okay. The question is, once the whole system is run by them and everything they wrap around the system of the whole economy, and they make sure that nobody can get into this circle, and there's no opportunity for anybody, as it is in some countries today. So it's like they control the market, so to speak. They make sure that nobody gets rich. That is Hamas. So they had always the idea that they are upper class, and you don't you dare be happy that I let you survive. You get paid money for working for me, but I can treat you like a piece of garbage. Hamas. If I decide not to pay you, or to pay you very little, or anything that went wrong, I don't care if it's your fault or not. Get out of here. Don't ask for money. You don't deserve it. Be happy that I don't kill you. So there, he lost his rights. This lower class people. He is Hamas. He is robbed from being a human, from being Tzelem Elokim. That is Hamas. There is an upper class, and then there's this class that there's no one to stick up for them. If something is wrong to them, in other words, they probably worked usually for these upper class people, or they did business with them. As long as everything is good, okay. If they have some trouble, they have something to bring up to court, the court is just gonna play the game. Yes, they listened, they were very unbiased, they listened to both sides, everything, but somehow always ended up ruling against their favor. They came up with some legalities or some mumble jungle, and it was like one, how do you say, the judges and the richies were sleeping in one bed. They understood themselves how to make this thing sound good, that these poor masses shouldn't be too disgruntled. That was a trick always, to make sure to keep them in a certain how should I say it, on just above the surface. They shouldn't drown, because if you squeeze them too much, then there's an uprising. That's what ends up happening to these societies. But they were smart enough. They knew how to manage them the right way. So it's Hamas. These guys, in reality, they're never going to win any kind of court case. Anything that's done unjust to them, forget about it. You can make a lawsuit, but you gotta pay. You gotta hire a lawyer, and a lawyer costs a lot of money to hire, and the guy doesn't have the money to hire the lawyer. And the other guy is saying we need to come up with more arguments, with more time. This guy's too poor. He has no time for this nonsense. He just needs some bread to eat. He can't fight this multi-million-dollar company with fancy lawyers. So the guy doesn't know. He thinks I lost because I don't have money for a lawyer. It gets hidden with all kinds of evasive veils. But the bottom line is, it is Hamas. Hamas means God calls it Hamas, not the people. Very important. A person standing outside had a very nice walk in the whichever countries these were. There were nice parks, there was everything. Hamas means it's a statement that's made by objectively by God. It would not be recognizable by the ordinary people, either from the upper class or from the lower class, because they would also think this is the system, this is how it has to be. Once you're in a system, you're born there, so you can't expect otherwise. Some people sigh here, they say we should be better, but they don't call it Hamas because this is, you gotta live. That's how it is. So let's recap this. Noah was the only one. Here's the tricky part, because you may ask, so everybody was wiped out. Hashem brought this huge flood and everybody was wiped out. Areas and areas of millions of people were destroyed. But come on, weren't the poor people or the people that were robbed? If there's a robber, there must be somebody who is robbed, who is dealt unjustly. So why are these people killed? Self-understood answer is that this is a system of God. He's not going to take this unjust, the person that is innocent, and make him wings, he'll be able to fly. God brings a destruction because he needs to wipe out this society. Society means how the general public opinion is, and how the constitution is, and how the whole system is, how the whole municipality, how the whole structure is. And obviously when that wipes out, the waves of the water don't stop by the innocent guy. Everybody gets. We have to create a new world with new people, a new system. Besides Noah was saved, what was, not the question would rather be what was special about Noah to be saved? That's the real question. Everybody was dealt in a way that Rashi says, once Hashem brings the destruction, it doesn't differentiate between good and bad, because that's how God makes things. He's not going to make miracles. He's just going to bring it and wipe out everything. What is the specialty of Noah? That God told him make a teva and go in there and the whole thing. That is because he was the only one that actively protested against the prevailing system. He was he is also from the richer upper class people. It wasn't a simple, wasn't just a Joe Schmo. He had the money, he had the abilities, he had the word, he was a well-known man, a recognized man, and he did not join their clique. He openly protested. He went against the trodden path. That is special about him. So imagine the time of communism, where all the people join a certain movement, and somebody who does not is persecuted or bashed or scolded upon, and this guy doesn't care. He gives out books, he makes blogs, whatever you name it. He makes Facebooks, and he is bold and he doesn't care. He fights, gets persecuted, this and that. He's going to speak up the truth. This guy deserves special attention. Yes, this is not easy. Not easy. We don't say a person has to fight. We don't say that. But you want to deserve special attention. You gotta know you don't get it from just sitting back. You get it because you did something was courageous, something out of the ordinary. And obviously it means he spoke up against their corrupt ways. He spoke up against it. Now, I just want to make this clear, that some people might say, oh, okay, I also speak up against him, I speak up against this person. So, speaking up against unjust ways is only worthwhile if a person does this with real intentions. That is very hard to find. Most of these days, most of the times, it is just you speak up to gain attention, to gain different ways to stick out. It's very tricky. Very tricky. So whenever you speak up, you have to think twice. Are you doing this to become famous yourself, or otherwise? And usually the answer is going to be the first. It is in the times that it is not in style to speak up against people, and it is hard. It just brings you solace. That's when it counts. That's when it's a way where you can prove that you're doing it out of purity of intention. This is just a side comment to this whole issue. But the main idea of this is to explain what Hamas means. And the lesson is for us that we can never measure justice with what the world accepts, because the world is a dangerous generalization. We don't know. You know, thank God this, as I understand, the system here in America is definitely better than it was in the Dora Mabel. That's what I assume. But never should we rely on street accepted justice solely on that. You could rely it, you could use it, but you have to be cautious with it, because we don't know what stream the world is heading to. What should be your barometer? Either before the Torah was given, it was the unique usage of the mind that God created in a person, that had a power to generate genuine and original thoughts of what is just and not. And today it is the Torah, because everything else is biased. So we must learn Torah. Now Torah here means obviously Torah Shebechsav, written, and the oral, because the written is just a half of the story, or less than a half of the story. It's impossible to understand. As our Hirsch explains, rightly so, it's like taking how do you say, a review for calculus, and you have some pages there, some formulas, but if you didn't learn it in the textbook, you didn't listen to classes from the professor, you won't understand a word that's flying there. So this is so simple that's how it is. The Torah was given along with a lot of notes. Well, actually the Torah is notes, and the giving one is the main. We must understand how to read it. We must understand. So we learn the Mishnah, we learn the Brisa, and these things were handed over. They contain the whole gist, the whole spirit of what the Torah means. Then you learn the Torah, you integrate it, and you get the full picture of justice, of what means your friend's property, lo sashok. You learn the Gemara and Bava Metzia. You learn all the Agadate. There's also old ancient traditions and ancient midrashim that are handed over. All of this gives us the right picture of justice in the eyes of Hashem. That's what counts. And you try your best, you try. The Torah says, "V'yom titin sacharo," you hire a worker, you pay him that day. If not, you ask him, "Can I pay you tomorrow?" If you cannot, don't tell him tomorrow if you cannot pay him, or don't hire him if you cannot pay him. The Torah has very strict guidelines on justice. The Torah says, somebody who's poor, you can't be nicer to him because of that. If he's poor and he lives in somebody's apartment, he doesn't pay rent, the justice is not to let him be there. Not to say, "Oh, he's so poor, how can this filthy rich pig raise him the rent? He's so much money, why can't that guy live there? That guy is sick and old." No, the justice is, do not. The Torah justice is in many instances against the modern so-called system. So we must study the Torah to get the right picture. Just from learning here and there verses, you don't get it. You learn it from learning all the Talmudic rulings and stuff. That's how you get into the spirit of thought of Torah. I hope this was instructive, and I'll see you next time.